Jack Nichols, United States Marine Corps, World War II. Jack is one of my all-time favorite veterans. He was a survivor of the Battle of Iwo Jima in 1945. He served with the 3rd Marine Division. They went in reserve after the initial troops landed on February 19, 1945. I had the pleasure of interviewing Jack at his home in San Diego, California many years ago, September 28, 2005, almost 20 years ago. Jack's been long gone from this earth, but his story lives on, and I'm grateful to be able to bring it to you today on the Voices of History channel. So Jack, we're gonna share your story today, like I told you we would. I'd like to thank Christopher Kastner for making it possible for me to present Jack's story to you. Chris, thank you for your support of my work, your continued support of my work. God bless you for it. And I'd like to encourage those of you watching this broadcast right now, please consider sponsoring one of my stories. You can get a hold of me through the video description. There's information there and in the comment section. You can go to larrycapello.com and you can contact me there. I would really like to hear from you. A lot of you being touched and blessed by these stories, writing me amazing comments, so I would just encourage you to try to help support these stories. Okay. Well, that's it for now. I'm going to bring you one of my heroes of World War II, Jack Nichols, his complete interview that I did with him many years ago. Hope you enjoy it, share it with others, and subscribe to this channel, and let's keep this thing going. God bless you. Tell me what you remember about the night before you actually went in for the landing, how you were feeling and what your thoughts were the night before.
Well, actually, we didn't have any problems in that regard. They woke us up about 2 or 3 in the morning to go down to the dining room or the chow hall on the ship, the President Jackson. It was the flagship of our division, and General Erskine was on it, who our division commander. And we went down, they asked you what you wanted for breakfast, steak and eggs or whatever you wanted, you got. And of course it went the wrong way when we teased some of the guys, you know. And he said, well, you know, fattening the pig before the kill or the cow before the kill. And some of them didn't like that very much, but that's what young people do, you know. I was, let's see, at that time I just had turned, no, February, yeah. I just turned 18 in September before going into Iwo Jima in February. So I don't know, we didn't have any great shakes about anything the night before. We're just trying to rest. We got interviewed by our platoon sergeants about what to expect and how severe the combat was already on the island, and that they were having all kinds of trouble going up Mount Suribachi, the 4th and 5th Marine Division, and hit on either side of Iwo Jima, and we were the spearhead between the 2 divisions, which we did. And then the next morning is daybreak. Well, we went down the cargo nets to the Higgins boats going into combat.
Tell me about that experience of going down into those nets. And had you seen combat before?
Yeah, we were on Guam. We made the invasion of Guam and so forth. And Guam was a different kind of a campaign altogether. The weather was tropic, and it was far from tropic at Iwo Jima. It was cool, and we avoided rain, however. Okinawa, the next campaign, had a lot of rain, I understand. But we didn't have any.
Yeah. Tell me about the morning of your going in, and did you know anything about Iwo Jima before you were there?
No, just what they told us. And they didn't tell us much. That this was a big pile of sand, and unfortunately we had to go in and take it. That the Japanese had been there for years and they wanted it, and it was a real target base that our government needed, so that the attack planes could work in and out of there to Japan, you know. And it was a what can I say? It was a real target for us to have. And going into Iwo Jima, when we went down the cargo nets and got into Higgins boats, and we were going in making circles, going in for combat, as the picture with John Wayne shows, the sands of Iwo Jima. Well, that shows the Higgins boat circling before we went in. Unfortunately, just as we hit the beach and they were about to drop the ramp on our Higgins boat, the Japanese had fired point blank at our Higgins boat and blew the whole aft end off. And those two sailors back there, they just didn't know what hit them. It was adios. And the ramp was down, and we waded on in, and so they say, hit the beach and went on in. And of course we were wiped out pretty good with direct twin 40s firing at us from Mount Suribachi, you know, right straight down our throat. And that was not a friendly battle.
Well, tell me about the landing as you approached shore. I mean, had the Japanese, we had 2 days later, so the Japanese were firing at you. Were there a lot of casualties still on the beach from the day before?
Oh yeah, plenty. Well, where we landed, the 4th Division was to the right, and they had a beach reserved for us. And so we didn't see much of that except our own men. Our own men got wiped out. Nothing was left of any of us, hardly, you know. And it was very difficult seeing your friends, you know. I kind of a sentimental guy anyway.
Well, to me that would be difficult to lose your buddies and maybe feel helpless. You couldn't help them at all? Or?
Oh yeah, that goes on, but one of the greatest losses that I had, of course, was Sergeant Powell, a friend of ours. He was from Pennsylvania, I believe, and he always wrote his girlfriend letters every day of his life, and then he got killed at Iwo Jima. And while we were on the 2nd airstrip, Motoyama No. 2, they passed word up to the front that they were taking Mount Suribachi and going to raise the flag. And so we turned around and laid back on the sand dunes and looked up there, and sure enough, we saw the flag raised at Iwo Jima. So that was really a historical moment, so to speak. And just then when we left the island, they were way ahead of everything. They gave us the actual pictures of Rosenthal's picture. And unfortunately, when I lived in Colorado, I was going back to Dallas, and somebody broke into my car and stole all my clothes and all these pictures I had. So I don't have that original picture they gave us when we left Iwo Jima.
Now, what was your job on the beach?
I'm just a fireman, just a infantryman.
You were a rifleman.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's why we took that island. I mean, tell me about what happened when you landed. You said a lot of your guys were wiped out. Where did you go? What was your rank then?
Well, I went all the way up to private, PVT.
So are you?
No, we didn't have time to get any promotions, and we didn't need them, so to speak. After we got back to Guam, the first sergeant happened to be from Dallas, where I'm from, and he said, "Nichols, get up here." So I go up to the headquarters tent, and he says, I thought you was a PVT, says you better stay on the ball or you're going to be a PVT again. We put you up for corporal and you made it. So I went from PVT, private, buck private, up to corporal. That's what I got out as a corporal. So it didn't make any difference.
So tell me, Jack, you hit the island. What do you remember about landing? Where did you go? What did you do for those first few hours?
Well, that's all we did was try to find some place to hide, so to speak, and try to dig a foxhole, but you couldn't dig a foxhole because the sand would fall back in on you. There's nothing you could do except go forward, advance. There's nothing you could do, period. Even if the wet sand on the beach would just fall back on you if you tried to dig into it. So there was nothing that we could do except go forward, and that's what we did. And we spearheaded through the middle of the island where the other divisions were on either side of us.
Were you, you had an M1? What were you carrying?
Yeah, I carried M1. Of course, I'd been authorized on the BAR, the Browning automatic, and also the flamethrower. So I did them all, but most of the Marines did anyway. And
did you like run into the island, hit the deck, crawl, get to the first terrace, crawl over, covering fire, advancing? I mean, how did you progress that first day or you were there?
Well, you just kept going, as I said, and when they said hold your line, and then you'd stay there and start digging in, and the sand would just keep falling back in on you. Then they say let's move out, and then you would move out and go forward, and it seemed like every time you moved, you were going up a sand dune. And we went across the first airstrip pretty fast because the other Marine divisions had already secured that area, and we had to cross that area and go up the middle, which we were directed to do. And from then on, you never saw anything green or that had been green. It was all just sand, nothing else. And they named that movie, right, Sands of Iwo Jima. It was strictly that, period. But as far as having any thing to do about great events and so forth, there wasn't anything there. You just had to go. We just had a bunch of guys that knew what to do, and we did it.
Was it a shock to you when you landed about all the casualties and what you saw? I mean, was that a shock for you, or were you prepared for that type of thing?
Well, we'd already had combat at Guam before we went up there, and we had casualties and was aware of it. And we had replacements in our platoons and operations that definitely had not seen combat, and maybe it was tougher on them than it was for us who had already been in combat. We definitely know that we helped each other as much as we could and kept advancing, and the main thing was to secure the area that we were in and keep moving forward. And that's the name of the game in combat.
Was there a particular hard time for you? What was the worst thing you saw on the island? I mean, fair question. What was maybe the worst thing you saw?
Well, some of our men, that they had to have somebody to take care of the casualties on the beach, and we hated to. I'm glad I wasn't one of them, because it would have been harder on me than it was on some of the others, I guess. But the casualties on the beach was terrible. Whenever you see the bodies all blown up and torn away and so forth, it was not a pleasant thing. what they showed in the different movies, of course, was easy to see compared to being there. And unfortunately, I didn't know any better, you know, being a young kid. You don't know any better, so you're okay. You do what they say. And it was when you're spearheading up through the island, you know, and you're with these guys, and you turn around, they're gone, and you ask me what was the worst thing. The worst thing that happened to me was the corpsman asked me one day to take these walking casualties back, and I had them hold on to each other's belt, walk behind me. I guess there was a dozen of them, and I was leading them, and every time I'd pass what appeared to be a dead Japanese, I'd certainly shoot him again to make damn sure he didn't shoot me in the back when I walked by him. I guess that was one of the worst things I ever had to do. But outside of that, whenever we went all the way up through the island and was going back, getting off the island, they took us out on a Higgins boat out to the Zorak ship, taking us back to Guam, our division back to Guam. And I walked up we didn't have to go up a cargo net. I went up a gangplank along the side of the ship, and just as I got up and saluted the officer and the ship, somebody hollered at me and said, "Hey, Nick." And it was Poochie Flanagan from Garland, my hometown. He was in the Navy on this ship. So I ate pretty good going back to Guam. But
So you were there the whole time to the end, to the 26th
oh yeah,
March, okay.
Sure. I got wounded twice and went back to the hospital, and it wasn't bad. And whenever I got blown up, we were digging in on top of a pillbox stupidly, you know. We didn't know it was a pillbox. And the Japanese heard us up there, I guess, and so they blowed themselves up and us too, and it blew me up pretty good. And Bill Neinstead said, "Jack," says, "you get out of here." It was midnight or so. So you go back to the hospital, and says, "You don't know how bad you're hurt or if you're hurt at all, you know." So anyway, I went back, and fortunately they didn't find anything wrong with me. And I had a few abrasions on my back, my neck, and so forth. But what happened is that it ruptured my spine, which they didn't know at that time, and I didn't know. And all these years of playing golf and tennis and enjoying life, my spine never bothered me until about 2 years ago. And I gave you a picture of my spine that the Veterans Hospital took of me last year. And they're debating whether to put me on any type of pension or not. And they don't want to give me any pension. I don't care. I don't need it. But I mean, I have the privileges of the full benefits of the hospital. I don't have to pay for anything because of my Purple Heart that I received from the government. They paying for everything. It's very difficult to go, and my wife keeps telling me, go back to the HMRs, you know, and get better, faster service than you would with the Veterans Hospitals, but I'm not sure about that. I enjoy them. It's just difficult to see so many people that are taking advantage of the government.
Sure.
And which I don't relish at all. But as far as fighting and so forth at Iwo Jima, it's very difficult to put it into words of how you feel about shooting other people, and until you get hand to hand. We had a few hand to hands, then it's no problem, you know. You just kick the hell out of them if you can, you know, when you have to. Shoot them or kick them or whatever you can do to save yourself. But this young friend of mine from home in Louisiana jerked the BAR out of my hand one day and says, "Nichols, give me that damn BAR." I said, "You don't even see those Japs." I was looking all over them. They kept running out of these caves, and I can't think of his name right now, but he was down there and where the hurricane just came through, and home in Louisiana, I believe is the name of the town he was from. But it was quite a kick whenever he jerked this BAR out of my hand and started shooting at the Japs, which I was unable to see. They kept coming out of these caves and running about every 10 seconds or so, and they would come out, and unfortunately I was looking at the empty 10 seconds. And but anyway, always some crazy things happening.
Well, you mentioned hand-to-hand. I mean, bayonets fixed, the whole bit?
Oh yeah, you always have your bayonets whenever you're approaching a situation, especially when they say move out, and you know damn well that the Japanese are going to do something to you in a hurry. Well, you're going to be prepared for anything. Of course, your bayonets are fixed, and you got plenty of ammunition, and you go back and carry up all the ammunition you can, and hand grenades all over your body, and use everything you can because you've been trained that way. And it's not fun, but you do it, and you did it. And you know, when you're 18 years old, hell, you don't know any different. You just do what they tell you to do. Thank goodness I was that young. Older, I was probably cracked up, you know.
So you basically relied on your training to get you through the hard times or the difficult times?
Oh yeah, you had to, because, and you were in good physical shape too, you know. They couldn't throw anything at you that you couldn't take care of. You know, 18 years old, hell, you were good shape, and worked hard, and trained hard. And before we left Guam, hell, the lieutenant colonel who was in charge of our regiment, he had his foot up my butt about half the time on the marches on Guam when we were training to leave. And so he said, "Okay, boy," says, "I'm telling you what we're going to do." Says, "We're going to go full pack, and we're going to march to the ship. We're not going to go down there in those trucks." So we marched that 18 miles down to, forget the name of the bay, I think it was Talafufu Bay or something on Guam. And we marched the 18 miles from the coconut grove where we lived in Yona on Guam, and marched on down and went aboard the ship. But you know, we stayed in shape, so we were ready. They couldn't throw anything at us that we couldn't accomplish. And either.
Was it hard to talk about any of this stuff after the war? I mean, you're talking to me, but had you talked about a lot of this stuff before or not?
Well, my wife kept saying, I just started talking the last couple of years. So I didn't talk at all, evidently.
Didn't remember it, or just?
Oh no, I just didn't want to talk about it. Of course, I remember it. I'm talking now.
Yeah. Did you see the article in the paper? Your wife, or who? How did you find it?
Alice saw the paper and saw it and said, "Why don't you call?" Says they may need some first-hand knowledge. So evidently you didn't need much because you interviewed 200.
Your story got my attention.
But it was a you know, I hope I've brought something to you that you're accomplished. Yeah.
Let me add something that's combat's always intrigued me, and listening to the different stories about combat and hearing what you've had to say. Do you become a different person when you're in combat, when you're fighting the enemy, or is it just like, do you ever You know what I'm saying? Do you feel bad about what you're doing, or you said you just did it because you had to do it? It's fight, kill, or be killed, right?
Oh yeah, that's the name of the game, and you learn that in a hurry. It doesn't take long when the guy's shooting at you. They're running over your foxhole, and you're looking up. You know, you dig so damn far down, you need a ladder to get out sometimes. And they keep rolling hand grenades into your hole if they can. But I always try to dig in between machine guns or dogs. If that dog started whimpering, I knew the Japs were close by at night, and we just did. But whenever you say about combat, hell, you just did what you had to do. There wasn't any way of getting around it. I mean, either same old story, you kill or be killed.
How many Japanese do you think you killed on that island? 1, 10?
Myself? Oh, I wouldn't know.
100?
I wouldn't even say. I just know there was plenty.
So you saw them.
And
they were in the caves, but they came out obviously.
oh yeah, they came out and they charged us and everything else. In fact, one of our dearest friends, every Sunday at Mass down here at the mission, we go to Mass down here at the mission, and the lady just comes in and sits with Alice and I every Sunday, and she's a Japanese lady, and she just came back from Japan visiting her mother, who's 85, I think, and such a sweet lady. And she and her husband are both Japanese, and they came here to California 20 or 30 years ago, you know, and just the nicest people in the world. And I'm embarrassed myself to be considered a friend. But those things happen.
Did that ever bother you after the war, or just
all the time? Yeah. I can't. Years I lived out in New Mexico for a while, and years I never could go to a Chinese restaurant or anything. We didn't have any Japanese restaurants. Couldn't go to any Asian type of people. I just had nothing to do with them. I couldn't tolerate them. It's sorry to say, you know, they're people just like us, but.
So in boot camp, do they train you do they put like a killer instinct in you? What do they do in boot camp to get you ready for a situation like that?
Basically, it's physical in boot camp. And they let you know that anything that they do to you or for you or with you is for your benefit, to help you survive. In fact, I saw both of my sergeant and who took us through boot camp, I saw both of them at Iwo Jima. They were directing traffic. They were MPs. And I was taking some casualties back and walking by them, and they said, "Hey, Nichols, how are you? You know, I'm glad you're making it." You know, so that's what they trained us for, trained to survive. And they did it.
You know, Jack, I've got a 19-year-old son, and he's older than you were at Iwo, but it's hard for me to imagine how such a young person, such a young age, you're able to do these things. I mean, it's amazing to me, and you're so young, and yet you probably grew up really fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I had a little bit advantage on a lot of young men. I was raised in my dad's restaurant truck stop. I was called as pearl diver. I washed dishes, and I grew up with adults more so than other young people, and all the fathers and mothers that come to our cafe, their children didn't have the opportunity I had to work with adults or to service adults as I did, you know. So I felt I had an advantage over most of the young men at 17 or 18 years old. Maybe I didn't, but I felt comfortable about it. I knew all the fathers and mothers of everybody, and unfortunately the other kids didn't have that privilege. You know, they went home from school and stayed home. I went down and washed dishes or stoked the barbecue pit or whatever I had to do, and raised that way, and never regret it, you know. Between boot camp and growing up the way I did, I figured it helped me to get through life like I have so far. Very fortunate. I'm healthy. Hell, I've had a heart attack. They said I had one. I didn't think I did, but evidently I had one. All the computers say I did. I carry that little bottle of pills with me. If I feel bad, I throw one of them down. So far, I've never had to use them. But I've had heart attacks, and I've had cancer and colon cut out, and Alice takes care of me, feeds me good, plenty of fresh vegetables and fruits every day, and I feel like we've been married, 51 years now, and so everything's going along fine, thank goodness. May die tonight, who knows, but I don't care. I've enjoyed life.
So you got through the island, you're going through the island. It's been a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What are you doing all this time?
We didn't have anything to do except fight. We never had the privilege that the European war had, to where they got relieved of duty to go back to what they call for R&R, whatever they call that. We didn't have that. When you're in the Marine in combat, you're in combat until the island is secured. And hell, there's nothing wrong with that. You get the job done and then go on back to Guam or wherever you have to go, get away from it. And that's all we did in that respect.
Tell me a little bit about the pride and the camaraderie of the Marine Corps.
You should know that. Once a Marine, always a Marine. Semper Fi.
On the island, though, I mean, tell me about that bond that you guys have, that you share.
Well, it's such a... You don't have time for what you just said. You're out there doing your thing, what you're trained to do, and you don't want to interfere with anybody or anything. If something needs to be done, to hell with it, you did it. I mean, you didn't. Nobody had to ask you twice to do anything. I mean, whenever we left, we had 13 people left in our platoon that didn't get killed. Everybody seemed to have gotten wounded once or twice, but there was just 13 of us that came back alive, and that was something.
How many started with the platoon?
Well, we had overstaffed platoon, probably 70.
Oh my gosh.
And it was one of those things. As I said, I went back to the hospital twice, 2 Purple Hearts. We got Bronze Stars. And one of the comedy cartoons in the paper from Europe, this guy's back to the first aid station. I've got a copy of it from this famous artist. I forget his name. I've got it. I'll give you a copy. And it says, talking to the corpsman, he says, "No, just give me a couple of aspirins. I already have a Purple Heart." That's one of the greatest cartoons there is to a combat man.
What does Iwo Jima mean to you today, Jack? I mean, 60 years ago, what significance does it have in your life? Does it have any meaning?
I wouldn't say it did, except that I've been there, and I'm happy that I was able to come through the whole damn thing and didn't get killed, so to speak. As far as getting hurt, as I said, it's 55 years later, or 58 years later, when I got blown up, before it started bothering me. I played high school football, before that, and I went into boot camp and everything, and then into combat and got blown up pretty good, and never realized that my spine was crooked. I gave you a picture of it, and he said, "Jack says, this is from years ago." And it just started bothering me about 2 years ago. And I use a cane now. Looks like it's going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. But I don't care. Hell, I've enjoyed life.
Why do you think you survived, Jack? A lot didn't. And did you ever feel guilty for surviving?
No way. I'm happy to be here, and I didn't give a damn. When you say survival, they teach you how to survive in the Marines, and they love you. They care for you.
Looking back 60 years as a World War II veteran, Jack, and as an American citizen, what does freedom mean to you?
Well, it means I feel sorry for the rest of the world. I feel sorry for the concentration camps and everything like that. It's just so sad, and if I could help, I would have more. And I did everything I could, and it's a wonderful feeling to be here and have been in a battle like Iwo Jima. Guam was good, but it wasn't anything like concentration like Iwo Jima. And
what would you say to a young person today about the price for freedom? Maybe someone who doesn't know anything about war, the sacrifices of war. What would you tell a young person about the price for freedom?
You couldn't get through to him. I wouldn't even attempt it. I'm sorry to say. Wish I could, but I have 2 sons. Neither one of them went to the service, had to go to the service. They missed the different times. And one of them's 46, and that Patrick there is 43 or 4. And I'm happy that neither one of them had to go to war or had to go to service, They're both young, happy men. And I've never regretted that they never... I would have liked if they would have had to go to service for a couple of years out of high school instead of going to college first. I think all young men should go to the service for at least a year or 2 years before they go to college and help them become a man.
Sure.
That, I think, would help America raise better young men, because the military certainly is not going to harm anybody. I feel so sad about the present war, whether I should say anything about it or not. I feel so sad about it because I don't feel we should be there. And those people have been fighting 50 or 100 years before we got there, and they're going to be fighting 50 or 100 years after we leave. So what the hell are we there for? Spreading good cheer for America? America is nothing in Europe anymore. I feel so sad.
Yeah.
But that's another story.
What does this country and the American flag mean to you as a veteran?
You saw it out there. I fly the flag every day of my life. Don't talk to me about America not being the best.
Well, obviously, when you fought at Iwo Jima, you maybe not have been conscious of it. Did you say you saw the flag raising, or you didn't?
I did. Oh yeah. Well, they passed word up to the front, and we were on the second airstrip, Motoyama number 2. And they passed. They said, "Hey, they're fixing to raise the flag." So evidently, they'd raised the first flag, and they were doing the one for Rosenthal, I think was his name. And they passed word up to the front that they were going to raise the flag, and we rolled over on our back on the airstrip. Was like this up here, and we rolled over on our back and looked back up at Mount Suribachi, and actually we saw the flag unfurl. And then it was really historic after the picture was publicized so much, you know.
Do you remember how you felt? Did you have a feeling of pride or security in that, or?
Not really. I just knew the boys did their job. That's what they went up there for, to secure that point and get those twin 40s off our back, because they were still shooting point blank at us.
And so when the campaign's over, was there an order given, you're going home or you're leaving, or was there a celebration, or what do you remember about when you left the island?
Nothing. When we got up to the other end of the island, the wide part of the island, it's kind of like an hourglass, so to speak. And with Motoyama's number here, down here, and I mean the Mount Suribachi was down here, and the wide part of the island was here. When we got down there, we had spearheaded through the middle, and the 4th and 5th Marine Division was on either side. We got down there, there wasn't any place to go but back in the ocean, you know, so that was the end, and we had secured the island, and then they, coming back through, we were either closing up all the caves or going in and getting them out, one or the other. And after we got through with that, we went to the cemeteries. And we went on back to the ship. Went back to Guam. It wasn't a celebration.
Did they have names of those that were buried at the cemetery?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see friends or what?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, they're still there, I guess. Music, Myers, Nevins, all there.
You ever think about them during your lifetime?
All the time. Good people. Good kids.
Never got to live their lives, did they?
Nah. Shoemaker from Mississippi. Crazy guy.
Still remember their names.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about when you think of them now? What are your thoughts about those men that died?
I enjoyed them. Enjoyed their friendship. It's about all you can say.
It's amazing to me. You're a rifleman. I mean, to me, you guys were the reason we secured that beachhead or took that island. I mean, the Navy bombarded it, didn't do anything. The Air Force, but those Japanese were dug in, so you had to go get them out, right?
Oh yeah, we did.
Did you have to ever go into the pillboxes?
Oh hell yeah, yeah. We didn't enjoy it, but we did.
Can you describe how do the Marines overtake a pillbox, and what are you doing?
Well, you find the entrance and you kind of throw a few hand grenades in there to get them out of the way, get them back into the far as they can go probably, or to another area. And then you start easing in, and then you hope they don't throw another grenade back at you, you know. And but that's the name of the game. You know what you're doing. You just go in there and try to follow a flamethrower if you can.
So what, kind of walk me through that. So the grenade's thrown, you guys are below, the flamethrower guy goes up and blows them out, or what? Tell me how that works again now.
Well, whenever you come up to the entrance to a pillbox or a cave, you throw some hand grenades in to get them away from the entrance, and then you bring in a flamethrower and have him blast it out and blow up anything that they would be throwing back at you. And then you just start moving in, and you have your rifles with you and your bayonet fixed in case you turn a corner and there they are, you know, which we've done many times. And you're trained in that manner, and that's about all you can do.
Do the combat engineers come by later and blow up the caves, seal them up? Is that then what happens, or do you know?
Oh yeah, the combat engineers are good people. They do their job. If we feel comfortable that we have secured the cave, so to speak, secured it, that nobody's running out behind us as we turn around to leave, then the engineers will come in and they would give us C2 charges, pack charges, and we would pull those pins on those and throw them in there and blow it up. And then the engineers would come in and really seal it up, you know, with dynamite or whatever they used, I don't know. But we always had pack charges with us that we could blow up an entrance to seal it temporarily until it was sealed permanent, you know.
So you make your way across the island, and is there like a platoon sergeant or somebody that's ordering you to do these things, or were you volunteering to do these tasks, or what?
Well, you just do them, you know. Sergeant or a corporal or your PFC or private or whatever, he says, get that PAX charge, you know, and anybody would do it. Of course, we're all trained to do it. There's no problem there. You just take a PAX charge and pull a fuse on it and make damn sure that you ignite it before you turn it loose, or they'll throw it back at you.
That's different than a hand grenade. A PAX charge?
Oh, a PAX charge is, it's a, I don't know what it's, C2, it's a very high explosive, and it has a fuse on it, and you ignite the fuse, and then throw the PAX charge back as far as you can, and then get your ass out of there.
Now that was before a hand grenade, or after a hand grenade, or in place of a hand grenade, or what?
No, you would do that after the hand grenade. The hand grenade is to make sure that you're able to do anything you want. And then you call in the flamethrower, and then after the flamethrower, you throw the PAX charge in case they were in another cave coming this way, you know. And then you throw the PAX charge and try to seal it off. And we always had those with us all the time. And then first thing and early in the morning, well, then everybody, not everybody, but a detail would go back for ammunition, PAX charges, and cases of hand grenades or whatever we needed, you know.
Does it seem like 60 years ago, Jack, or does it seem like yesterday?
Seemed like never. Seems like a long time ago. And it was. Yeah.
Did you ever dream about Iwo Jima?
Oh yeah, I don't dream about it now unless I watch war movies. I watch them. I may wake up at night and the damn doctor put me on another pill that gives me illusions.
Really?
And
at nighttime you have them?
yeah, and I don't appreciate them, but I'm trying to get her to get me off of that particular pill.
What do you take that for?
I have no idea. They take blood. Anytime they want to do something, they take your blood, you know, and that blood analyzes your whole system forever. Yeah, still got one here. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah.
The week before last, they took blood. Okay, Jack, we're going to continue with that pill, or you're going to drop that one and do this one. The blood count tells them everything.
You consider yourself a hero, Jack?
No, why would I be? I wouldn't know what a hero is. I just know that I'm happy to be here, and happy that you know, that everything went as well as it did, so to speak. I'm here, live a good life, worked hard, enjoyed it.
What would cause a man to jump on a grenade and die for his buddies? What?
Yeah, it's just simple, right thing to do. If you think it's going to hurt somebody else, you would just do it automatically. It wouldn't be no second thought to it at all. They wouldn't even consider themselves a hero.
Did you ever see anybody do that?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What do you remember? Tell me one incident. I mean, what happened? Somebody threw a grenade out and he jumped on it, or what happened?
Oh, well, they'd take their helmet off and throw it on top of their grenade, you know. And that's where you're trained to do, you know. Take your steel helmet off and lay it on a grenade. It could keep you from getting killed, you know, and then again, maybe not, you know, according to how strong you were, maybe, or how quick you were able to cover it, you know. But
You saw somebody do that?
oh yeah, yeah.
Were you like taking a pillbox or a cave and Japanese threw a grenade out? And
Yeah, see, their grenades weren't as severe as ours. Their grenade was maybe, I don't know, it was a smaller grenade, I think. I felt like it was smaller and didn't have the concussion that ours did. And we had an incident where the Japanese walked out and they saw us. Instead of throwing a grenade, you know, they have to tap it, and they hit themselves with it, with their helmet, with the grenade to ignite it, and then he held it to himself and blew himself up. So I saw that. Wasn't very proud of that, to see that. Poor guy. Just goofy. He just thought we were maniacs, I guess.
But you saw an incident, like you said, where they threw one out and one of you guys...
Oh yeah, I saw a guy do that. I didn't know who he was, but I saw him do it. I wasn't close by, but I saw it and knew the results. They carried him away to the aid station. I don't think he died. I think he was okay.
Put his helmet down.
Yeah.
You ever hear of a man named Roy Gherkin? Does that ring a bell? Bill Eckert? He's a man I met in Florida, 3rd Marine Division.
Yeah. We had one of our guys from West Virginia won the Congressional Medal of Honor there. Can't remember his name. He was a real goofy guy, real hillbilly. I don't even know what he did, but I just heard after we got back to Guam that they had ordered him the Congressional Medal of Honor for bravery.
I'm going to ask you to do one more thing if you can. I've asked all
Yeah.
the Marines. If it's okay with you, at the end of my films, I ask them into the camera just to do me a quick salute. Could you do one for me into the camera?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Happy to do it.
Thank you. Okay. All right.